Hello everyone, it's Nick Lawson with cdc-TakeCharge software, and this is lesson 9 on how to build a more robust and user-friendly contact management application in Alpha software. In the last training session, we would discuss the memo entry process and the differences between a standard memo field and a rich text memo field. As I was preparing this lesson, I noticed there were several things that needed to be done before we could actually do that. Alpha software has a design feature for each table called Field Rules. If you right-click on a table, you will see Edit Field Rules in the pop-up menu. Inside the Field Rules is the option to set rules which govern the behavior of the data entry or the look of the data on a screen. In addition, you can set posting rules, lookup values, validation rules, and much more. We will discuss only a few of these rules today, but first let's look at the people form, which I have on the screen. The original design of the people form under the Contact History tab was to have a browse window which had the method of the contact, the date entered, whether or not a follow-up was involved, the due date, whether it was complete, the contact memo field, and the follow-up memo field. Now, in doing the data entry, the method field is just a user entry field. There's no control to take and make sure that the data entered is uniform in look, or whether there's a list built so you don't have to continually enter the same values. This date field here is the date of the activity. The enter date, which occurs in the background, is stored, but it was not set to a default value, so therefore new entry left that field blank. Follow-up, as you can see, is set to true false, which is really not very professional by today's standards, and the due date. If follow-up is false, you still enter this field, which really is a waste of keystrokes and a waste of time for the user on the application. Finally, complete, yes or no, and then your memos are in the browse. Personally, I do not like memos in a browse, so we'll be taking those out. And we'll look at the other changes that I've made in the data entry process for activities. Here, I've created a new look for our Contact History tab. Notice I have some buttons up here. We'll discuss those. Now, the method is a drop-down list. And not only is it a list, but you can enter a value and it gets added to the list so that the customer or the user can build their own unique custom list of contacts. The date field is a calendar. Notice the follow-up is now a checkbox. If it's checked, then you want to follow up and you will enter a due date or a follow-up date. For example, here, if I'm in my field, right, and I want that to be true, then when I hit enter, it takes me to the due date field. If I'm not in the field and I hit enter, it skips it. See how that works? Now, on the follow-up memo, what is happening here is by default, the contact memo is what will display. So if you want to see the follow-up, you click the button and it'll automatically switch to the follow-up memo. The user will not do data entry on this form here. They'll open the memo manager and do the data entry there. This will give us more control, again, which we'll discuss in our next lesson. For now, let's look at how we made these changes here. So let's go to the control panel. And we want to work with the activity table. So I'm going to right-click on activity, and there's Edit Field Rules. Now, at the top of the field rule table, you have a drop-down list of all fields in the table. If there is a check mark, that means that a field rule has been set for that particular field. We're going to start with Activity ID. On the Field Type tab, you'll notice I selected Auto Increment. That's all you have to do for that one, and then every time a new activity is created, it creates the ID, which allows you to link to the memo. the date enter, and again, this is not the date that's on the screen, but we're setting it to a simple default value of date. Now, our default mode, here's your choices in the drop down here. And again, default expression is all we need because it's a simple thing to do. Next, we have contact type. Here, we're doing a lookup. Our lookup styles are in the drop down, and again, we're using previous values, which is a simple way to do it, and we're displaying it as a drop down list box. Also, we're saying that we want to allow any value so that the user can build their own list of values. And we want to pop up on entrance so that when you go into the field, it automatically displays the list, allowing them to select the one they want rather than having to type the whole thing out. Finally is the field rule for the follow-up date. Here we're using skip. So what it says is if follow-up is true, then false. We do not want to skip. If follow-up is not true, we want to skip. There you go. That's it for the field rules. Now let's look at the form and look at those buttons that we have on there. We go to People CDC, Design. We're going to look at our new conditional page, which has our new look. And here, under Enter New Event, since we are working with an embedded browse in a set of one-to-many, you have to take and write the code so that it identifies which browse on the set you want to use. So here I've got People CDC browse 5 dot new record. That tells it that we want to enter a record into the browse and not into the parent set. And we name the browse activity. Pretty straightforward. If you're not sure how to do that, again, that is available over here under Objects and under Windows, and then your Form, and then you find your objects. So browse 1, and if I go to Methods and bring that up, you'll see new record is down here. There you go. So pretty straightforward stuff. Now, on the save entry, again, we just do something a little different. We're wrapping the save in a UE freeze. This way, when you save the record, you don't see that blink on the screen. So we commit browse 5 to save that record, that entry. Then we move the activation to the PL contact field so that they can search for another contact if they want. And then we commit the form itself. And then we set our UE freeze to false. Again, pretty straightforward, simple stuff. Let's take and look one more time at how this works. So we'll close out of here. Bring up our application. Our logo. There's our actual form. So we want to go to the contact application, people. We're up on our main form. We want to see the new setup. And there you go. So now if I want to enter a new record, I click the button. There you go. It pops down my list and I can pick whichever one I want. Call. I want to set the date that I want to call, 08-16-2012. And I do not want to follow up. Oh, I see. I put the wrong date in there. 8-16-2012. I do not want to follow up, so I'm going to skip over that and I go right to whether it's complete or not, which basically at this point I'm done, except for writing the actual memo. So I'm going to save my process since I don't have that set up yet. That's it. I hope you found this useful, and I really encourage you to look at field rules and see all the cool, unique things that you can do with those. Have a great day. We'll have the next lesson up shortly.